If these signs appear, you're a very rare type of chosen one. Have you ever felt like you were born into a world that doesn't quite understand you? Like your soul was dropped here from some distant realm, carrying a mission no one else seems to recognize. Maybe you've walked into crowded rooms and felt more alone than ever. Maybe the noise of the world has always felt too loud, too shallow, too disconnected from something sacred that you've always sensed but couldn't quite name. If you felt that way, if you still feel it, then listen closely, because you might just be a very rare type of chosen one. I want you to pause for a moment and ask yourself, why am I here? Not in the casual sense, not just to survive or check boxes on a to-do list, but in your bones, in your soul, why are you here?
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
You see, chosen ones don't always look like sages or saints. Sometimes they look like the person who's been through hell and still gets up. Sometimes they look like the quiet observer in a room full of loud voices. Sometimes they're the ones who've questioned everything, from religion to reality, because deep down they knew something didn't add up. One of the first signs that you might be a chosen one is this inner sense of dissonance. Ever since childhood, you may have noticed things that others didn't. You saw the fake smiles. You felt the energy in the room shift when someone lied. You sensed when someone was hurting, even when they said they were fine. You weren't just sensitive, you were connected. But no one told you that your sensitivity was a gift. Instead, they called you too emotional, too intense, too different. But what if being different was never a flaw? What if it was the mark of your calling? Chosen ones often live through deep pain early in life, not because they deserve it, but because their soul is being forged in fire. Pain is the sacred teacher that most people run from. But you endured it. And somehow, even when it almost broke you, you didn't turn to bitterness. You searched for something more. That search alone is divine. Let me tell you something powerful. The universe, God, Source, whatever name you give it, it never chooses the obvious. It doesn't pick the loudest voices or the most polished masks. It chooses the cracked vessels, the ones with eyes that have seen too much and hearts that feel too deeply. Because only those people can carry the light without being blinded by it. Only those who've been lost can truly guide others home. Another sign of being a chosen one is the pull towards solitude. Not because you hate people, but because your soul needs space to breathe. You've probably found yourself retreating from the world, not out of fear, but because you've always known that the noise distracts from the truth. In your quiet moments, you've touched something eternal. Maybe during a walk in nature, or during a late night when everyone else was asleep and the stars were whispering secrets to you. You've felt it, haven't you? That subtle knowing that you are not just a human being, you are a soul on a sacred mission. But let me be clear, being chosen doesn't mean you're better than anyone else. It means you are here to serve in a unique way. It means that your life will not follow the usual script. And that can feel lonely. It can feel like a punishment. But it's not. It's preparation. You may have noticed that people are drawn to you. Strangers tell you their life stories. Children, animals, and even broken people feel safe with you. It's because your energy carries truth. There's something in you that reminds others of what they've forgotten. You don't even have to speak, your presence carries frequency. You're a mirror that reflects who people really are beneath their masks. And that's why some people resist you. That's why some try to dim your light. Not because you're wrong, but because you awaken something in them they're not ready to see. So I ask you, can you handle that responsibility? The world needs rare souls now more than ever. Not the ones who chase fame or fortune, but the ones who are willing to feel, to heal, to create, to protect what is sacred. The ones who are brave enough to go against the current, to say the uncomfortable truths, to be light in the darkest places. You might also notice that you've had spiritual experiences you couldn't explain. Maybe you've had dreams that came true, or you've seen patterns in numbers, in nature, in coincidences that seem too perfect to be accidents. That's because the veil is thinner for you. You are more attuned to the language of the universe. You see signs where others see randomness. You find meaning in the things most people overlook. That is not madness. That is awakening. But awakening is not easy. It will dismantle everything you thought you knew. It will ask you to release identities that felt safe. It will burn away illusions. And it will leave you standing in the truth, raw and reborn. Are you ready for that? Chosen ones go through cycles of death and rebirth, not physical but spiritual. Just when you think you've figured it all out, life will pull the rug out from under you. Not to destroy you, but to make space for your next evolution. That's why your path doesn't look like anyone else's. That's why your timing is different. The universe is not late, it's precise. It's preparing you for something vast, something your mind can't yet comprehend, but your soul already knows. And maybe you've doubted yourself. Maybe you've looked at others who seem more successful, more stable, more accepted, and wondered, why not me? But let me ask you something deeper. Would you trade your soul for their comfort? Would you silence your truth just to fit into a world that's forgotten how to feel? No, you wouldn't. And that's why you're chosen. Because even in your confusion, you've chosen the truth over the lie. Even in your pain, you've chosen to love. Even in your silence, you've listened to the whispers of something greater. That is rare. That is sacred. So what now? What do you do with this knowing? You begin. You begin to trust your intuition more than the noise of the world. You begin to honor your gifts, your empathy, your vision, your creativity. You begin to forgive yourself for not being perfect because your soul doesn't care about perfection. It cares about evolution, growth, truth. You start walking your path, even if it's alone, even if no one understands, because the path of the chosen one is not meant to be crowded. It's meant to be true. And eventually others will find you. Your light will call them. Not because you tried to change them, but because you dared to be who you really are. So I leave you with this question: what part of yourself have you been hiding, and why? Because that part, yes, that one is likely the very thing that makes you chosen. The sacred burden, why being different means you were born for a higher path. If you're still here, still listening, then you're already walking a path that most people can't see. Not because they're blind, but because their soul hasn't yet been called in the same way yours has. That's the thing about being chosen. It doesn't always come with a ceremony or a prophecy. Often it comes disguised as pain, loss, confusion. It arrives in moments when you feel most abandoned by life, and yet something inside you refuses to give up. That's not coincidence. That's sacred design. You see, the universe tests its rare ones through silence, through delay, through heartbreak. It watches to see, will you still believe when nothing makes sense? Will you still move forward when the light disappears? And if you do, if you keep walking even with no map, no applause, no validation, then you pass the ultimate initiation of the soul, faith with no proof. Chosen ones are not chosen because they're special in the superficial sense. They're chosen because they have the capacity to remember who they truly are in a world that constantly tempts us to forget. And that remembering doesn't come easy. It's not found in books or lectures. It's found in the quiet ache of longing, in the grit of survival, in the moments when you're curled up on the floor, wondering why everything is falling apart again. But here's the paradox: what's fallen apart is never the real you. It's the layers, the masks, the false identities you built to survive. And when those crumble, what's left is raw, divine authenticity. That's the version of you that the world needs. That's the version that carries medicine for others. That's the version that whispers truths the world has forgotten but is desperate to hear again. Have you noticed how your hardest moments often transformed you the most? How, even in your deepest trauma, some part of you grew stronger, wiser, more compassionate? That's not random. That's alchemy. Chosen ones are spiritual alchemists. They turn their wounds into wisdom. Their scars become symbols of survival. Their heartbreak becomes a portal to higher love. Not because they're immune to pain, but because they allow pain to serve a purpose. And that's what makes you different. It's not your talents or your achievements, it's your resilience. It's the way your heart still beats with hope, even after being shattered. It's the way you still believe in beauty, even after witnessing darkness. It's the way you reach for light, not just for yourself, but for others who are still lost in the shadows. Ask yourself this: what if your struggles were never meant to destroy you, but to awaken you? What if every betrayal, every failure, every moment of despair was actually a sacred initiation designed to strip away the illusions and bring you closer to your true essence? Would you still see yourself as broken or as being rebuilt by divine hands? Chosen ones often experience what I call divine loneliness. It's the ache of not belonging, of feeling like no one truly sees you, not because you're not worthy, but because you operate on a different frequency. You speak the language of the soul in a world obsessed with surface. But that loneliness is not punishment, it's preparation. It's the space where your gifts gestate, where your connection to the divine deepens, where you learn the ancient art of inner communion. And once you master that, you'll never be truly alone again. You will begin to attract others who speak your soul's language, kindred spirits, soul family, people who don't just like you, they recognize you. They feel like home, not because of shared opinions, but because of shared frequency. You will know them not by their words, but by how your spirit feels in their presence. Safe, seen, remembered. But before that can happen, you have to stop betraying yourself to belong in places your soul has outgrown. You have to stop shrinking to make others comfortable. You have to stop editing your truth just to be accepted. Because every time you do that, you dim the very light that makes you chosen. So here's the real challenge. Can you be fully you, even when it's inconvenient? Can you honor your intuition, even when it contradicts logic? Can you speak your truth, even when your voice shakes? That's the path of the chosen. It's not easy. It was never meant to be. But it's real, and it's powerful. And in this world of illusions, the real is what saves us. You were not sent here to fit in. You were sent here to awaken, to disrupt, to heal, to forge new paths. You are here not to follow the old maps, but to draw new ones. And that takes courage. It takes vision. But above all, it takes trust in yourself, in the divine, in the invisible thread that has been guiding you all along. So I leave you with this question: what pain in your life might actually be a disguised form of initiation? And if you could see it that way, what would change? The hidden trials of the soul, why your struggles are secret initiations. There is a light within you that the world was never prepared for, not because it is too loud, but because it is too true. And truth, in a world built on illusion, is radical, uncomfortable, disruptive. That's why, from an early age, the world may have tried to silence you. Not always through direct confrontation, but more subtly through shame, through disapproval, through the unspoken message that you're too much or not enough all at once. But think about this. If your light wasn't so powerful, why would there be so many attempts to dim it? The truth is, the most rare and chosen souls are often wounded the deepest, not because they are weak, but because they are born with hearts wide open. And such hearts absorb everything: the joy, the pain, the collective suffering of a world that's forgotten how to feel. Yet, despite all that, they continue to love, to seek, to rise. That is your superpower. You rise. But let's be honest, carrying this light can feel more like a burden than a blessing. There are days when you question if you're making any difference at all, when your empathy feels like a curse, when your vision isolates you, when you can see through people's masks and you wonder, why do I see so much? Why can't I just be normal? But that's the thing, you weren't meant to be normal. You were meant to be awake. And awakening is not glamorous. It's not about floating in bliss on a mountaintop. It's about feeling everything. It's about standing in the chaos of the world and still choosing to see beauty, still choosing kindness, still choosing to grow when it's easier to close off. That's the real work. That's the path of the chosen. You see, the world doesn't need more perfection. It needs more presence. And your presence when you're fully you is medicine. You don't even have to try. Just being who you are, in your truth, in your energy, in your rawness that shifts things. You walk into a room and people feel something they can't explain. That's not coincidence. That's frequency. And the more you own your light, the more it activates others. They may resist it at first. They may even push you away. But deep down, your light reminds them of their own. That's why your journey matters so much, not just for you, but for everyone your soul will touch. You might never know the full impact of your existence. You might never see the ripple effects of your courage or your compassion, but they are real. They are changing lives. Every time you choose to heal instead of harm, to love instead of judge, to speak instead of stay silent, you are rewriting the story of humanity. Chosen ones are not saviors. They are reminders of what we've forgotten, that love is stronger than fear, that truth is greater than illusion, that the soul is eternal, and you don't have to preach it, you just have to be it. So what does it mean to truly step into your power? It means trusting your intuition, even when it leads you away from the crowd. It means creating, even when no one is watching. It means holding your frequency when others descend into chaos. It means forgiving yourself for the times you didn't know better, because now you do. And it means showing up every single day, not perfectly, but authentically. Your mission is not to fix the world. It is to become so fully yourself that the world cannot help but remember what is true. That's the revolution, not force, not control, but remembrance, frequency, light. And here's the secret: you don't need permission to shine. You don't need a platform or a title or a following. Your soul is your platform. Your heart is your message. Your energy is your legacy. And when you walk in alignment with that, the right people, the right moments, the right miracles, they find you. Because light attracts light. That's the law of resonance. So I want to ask you one final, solvable question. What would your life look like if you stopped hiding the very thing you were born to share? What relationships would change? What decisions would you finally make? What dreams would you stop postponing? Because the truth is, the world doesn't need another version of what already exists. It needs you unfiltered, unmasked, unapologetic. You are not here by accident. You are not broken. You are not lost. You are becoming. And maybe, just maybe, everything that tried to break you was actually preparing you, sharpening you, refining you. So that when it was time to rise, you wouldn't rise as a copy of someone else, but as the only version of you this world will ever see. You are a rare type of chosen one, not because you are above others, but because you have chosen to awaken when it's easier to sleep, to feel when it's easier to numb, to love when it's easier to hate. And that choice, again and again, makes you luminous. This is not the end of your journey. It's the beginning of your remembering. The remembering of who you are, why you came, and what you carry inside. Now go, not to convince the world, but to remind it. And never forget, the light within you was never meant to hide. It was meant to lead. Awaken the mission. The world has been waiting for your light. So here we are. You've walked with me through this reflection, perhaps silently nodding, perhaps feeling waves of emotion you can't quite explain. Maybe it felt like I was speaking to a part of you that's been dormant, waiting, quietly whispering, "Yes, this is me." And if you've come this far, then I need to tell you something you may have never heard before, but always needed to hear. You are not strange. You are not broken. You are not alone. You are rare, and you are meant for something immensely important. The world has always been shaped by the few who dare to be different. Not the loudest, not the wealthiest, not the most celebrated, but the ones who carried something sacred inside. The ones who, in silence, in struggle, in stillness, held a vision for something more. A better world. A healed earth. A future not defined by fear, but by love. And maybe you've always carried that vision, even if you didn't have the words, even if you buried it for a while to survive. But it's still there, isn't it? That pull towards something higher. That knowing that you were never just here to exist, but to awaken something. Let me tell you the truth. The world is in desperate need of awakened souls, not perfect ones. Not enlightened gurus floating above reality, but real, grounded, fierce-hearted individuals who are willing to walk in truth when lies are louder, who are willing to love when it's easier to numb, who are willing to show up when everything says retreat. You are one of them. You wouldn't still be listening if you weren't. And maybe your mission won't look like a big stage or a massive movement. Maybe it's the quiet impact, the way you raise a child with empathy, the way you create art that makes someone feel alive again, the way your presence alone calms a storm inside someone else. That's the beauty of being chosen. It's not about ego. It's about essence. It's about being who you truly are, so fully, so authentically, that everyone you meet remembers who they are too. But remember, awakening is not a one-time event. It's a continual shedding, a continual emergence. And yes, sometimes it feels like losing everything, but what you're losing was never meant to stay. You are making room for the truth, for the light, for the mission. So, let me leave you with this. What are you no longer willing to hide? Because the moment you stop hiding, even a little, the world begins to shift. And not just your world, the world. That's how powerful you are. That's how rare your frequency is. You weren't meant to blend in. You were meant to ignite something. And maybe that something starts today. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to say yes to your soul. Yes to the voice that's been whispering, "There's more." Yes to the dreams that keep returning, no matter how many times you've ignored them. Yes to the path that scares you, because it also excites you. That's the path of the chosen. Not the easiest one, but the most alive. So rise now, not with noise, but with presence. Not with force, but with certainty. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs more you. Fully, freely, fiercely. Now is the time. You are the one. And this is your moment. Let the world feel your light. Let the frequency of your truth awaken something ancient in others. You came here to remember. You came here to remind. You came here to lead.